I stand close to my mother, my 8-year-old hand nestled in hers, as another cancer story is told. I glance at her breast. I wonder if the cancer's still there after the surgery that made her left breast look like my dad's. I wonder if it's a snake swallowing bits of my 38-year-old mother. I didn't know then that the snake would be in me. Not long after, my mom starts chemotherapy. I am determined to be involved. For her last treatment session, my parents let me go. I remember my mom sitting in a reclining chair, her right arm with a long tube in it. I wonder, is the snake drinking this red stuff? Then my mom starts tanning. I later learned that this is radiation. In the wake of uncertainty, she chose to do radiation. I lay my head on her shoulder, and the snake is there with us. Its fangs already sunk into my young chest, waiting. Years later, while working on my doctorate in health communication, the focus genetic risk and hereditary cancer, I find out that I carry the BRCA2 genetic mutation, the snake, which greatly increases my lifetime risk of developing hereditary breast and ovarian cancer. The snake has awoken, and it is now my turn to make decisions in the wake of uncertainty. Life is full of these, from little decisions such as trying your clothes on in the morning to finding a lifelong partner. But we oftentimes feel limited in the wake of uncertainty. But instead of being afraid of it, we can embrace it. Or, as my mother always says, you make the best decision you can with the information you have at that time. Yet oftentimes, the decisions we have to make are based on ambiguous, complex, and unpredictable information. So how do we make decisions in the wake of uncertainty? To answer that question, I'd like to draw on my personal experiences testing positive for BRCA2 and my research on health communication in order to offer steps for how you and I can make decisions in the wake of uncertainty. My childhood experiences really encouraged me to pursue a doctorate in health communication, the use of communication strategies in order to understand providers' experiences, patients' and families' experiences in order to improve health outcomes. After testing positive for BRCA2 and then beginning my cancer surveillance appointments, I realized that I started experiencing a lot of uncertainty about what my future might bring. Now, uncertainty exists when we believe something of our situation might be ambiguous, complex, or unpredictable. And after testing positive for BRCA2 and beginning to embark on my cancer surveillance appointments, I really wanted to understand my genetic risk. So I wanted to know if by age 70, I too had an 84% chance of developing breast cancer and a 27% chance of developing ovarian cancer. But those statistics are hard to conceptualize, so imagine it this way. What if I told you, on a trip you were planning to take, you had an 84% chance of not making it home safely? Would you board your plane? So even though I was experiencing uncertainty, I wanted to know if other people were too. So I thought to myself, this is great. I'll interview patients who tested positive for BRCA but who've not been diagnosed with cancer, and I'll figure this out. I'll be able to help them, and in the process, I can help myself. So the first thing I learned is that BRCA positive patients experience two sources of uncertainty: medical uncertainty and family uncertainty. Medical uncertainty encompassed the unknown future, attending cancer surveillance appointments, and personal cancer scares. And this was true for me. Since testing positive for BRCA2, I often wonder not if I'm going to get cancer, but when. When I'm attending my cancer surveillance appointments, I lie in the MRI machine and nearly suffocate from thoughts of what the radiologists might find. Yet it wasn't just medical uncertainty. Patients also experienced family uncertainty. And this encompassed traumatic cancer family members and desires to be mothers who would be there for their children. Again, thoughts and feelings I grappled with too. But I couldn't stop there. Could you? I wanted to fix the problem, the uncertainty that seemed to be my constant shadow. So I conducted more research, and I interviewed women and then men, and the second thing I learned is that BRCA-positive patients attempt to manage their uncertainty by seeking information. The top 3 information sources to manage uncertainty were cancer-related nonprofit organizations, healthcare providers, and the internet, which encompassed private Facebook groups and media sources. So after conducting all of this research, my research team and I then learned that patients wanted to create some type of plan of action to manage their genetic health risk with their healthcare providers. Somehow, seeking, organizing, and utilizing the information they found made them feel empowered, safe, and in some form of control. Even after conducting all of this research, though, I began to realize that I wasn't going to be able to completely eliminate the uncertainty. Indeed, the ironic thing about my work is that while I thought I would find some magic solution that would alleviate the fear and uncertainty I had about getting cancer, just like my mother, and you know what's coming. The magic solution doesn't exist. In other words, my research revealed that testing positive for BRCA does not decrease our uncertainty. No, testing positive for BRCA makes us realize that it is certain, that uncertainty is certain, that we are not uncertain, that we're certain about our uncertainty in our lives. So, after that, I was trying to grapple with these feelings that I was experiencing. And so I really reflected on other patients' experiences too. And I realized that I wasn't the only patient experiencing this. And I'm not just talking about other BRCA positive patients, but other patients too, like your cousin with diabetes, your father with heart disease, or your grandmother living with Alzheimer's. And even broader than that, all patients and all humans all over. Testing positive for BRCA made me realize that life is uncertain. But it is in the uncertainty of our lives that we learn and grow. So my new venture and my challenge for you and me tonight is to not worry about our uncertainty. It's to live life fully, embrace the uncertainty we feel, coping with the uncertainty we feel. Whether that's, am I going to get into graduate school? Will I find a lifelong partner? Will I get that dream job I've always wanted? Or will I inherit that family disease? But how do we cope with uncertainty? I'd like to offer 3 steps for living with uncertainty. First, live life fully. Don't wait for the best time, the right place. Take life-affirming risks now. After my mother's cancer diagnosis, my parents lived in the now. Instead of buying a new car or couch, they bought airline tickets. And together, we traveled the world, not waiting until my brother and I were old enough. Second, we cut people slack. We don't know everyone's story. You don't know what the Starbucks barista is experiencing. You don't know what your classmate, or your professor for that matter, is dealing with. And you don't know what the person in the grocery checkout line is experiencing either. Just like us, they are doing the best they can with the information they have. Finally, we embrace the uncertainty we feel, not being limited by ambiguous, complex, or unpredictable information. As my mother says, we make the best decisions we can with the information we have at that time. But I'll add this. Even if those decisions have to be made with ambiguous or unpredictable information, one way I choose to harness my uncertainty is by helping men, women, and children who are affected by BRCA and hereditary cancer through my research, by volunteering with a nonprofit organization called FORCE, and by participating in the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's National Young Women in Breast Cancer campaign called Bring Their Brave. We can control our destiny. It just depends on how we frame information. So what does this mean for you and I tonight? You know, a few years ago or so, my father sat me down. Marleah, he said, "Don't you want to study something less personal?" Well, I wish I had tested negative for BRCA too. This is who I am. I am a BRCA positive patient with an unknown future. But I refuse to be limited by something that may or may not happen. Instead, I choose to embrace my identity, striving to help others while continuing to challenge myself. I choose to embrace my uncertain future and follow my mother's wise words. Make the best decisions I can with the information I have at that time. You too can embrace who you are, regardless of what you perceive to be your limitations and your strengths, and live life fully in the wake of uncertainty.